So, Spider-Man Brand New Day got a trailer this past Wednesday after 1,550-ish days of just barely any information. It's been over a year now since we got the note of what the name of the film would be, but then we haven't gotten much. There's been pictures of the suit Tom Holland's wearing, which I think looks great, but that's been about it for info. And then there's been all sorts of rumors of, Jean Grey, Punisher, Daredevil, Hulk, stuff with the hand, stuff with Shocker, maybe. People have talked about stuff with Mr. Negative, Vulture, for some reason, Scorpion, stuff with Tombstone, a couple people were talking about stuff to do with a Hammerhead character, Kingpin, and so on, Hobgoblin. There's been a lot. But there hasn't been a lot of finite or final, more like, stuff about the film. But this past Wednesday, we finally got a trailer. It has been 4 years and a couple of months since No Way Home. It has been almost 3 years since Across the Spider-Verse, and it's been 2.5 years since the last Spider-Man game, Spider-Man 2. So at this point, it has been a hot minute since we've gotten any real substance as Spidey fans. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man came out, and that was good, and I really liked it. But that didn't feel as big a deal as like the movies do, because it kind of feels like there's always a Spider-Man cartoon, and there kind of has been pretty much all. There's been more days with a Spidey cartoon than there has been days without over the past 40 years. But it felt for a bit there like this movie just wasn't going anywhere, because with the stuff where Sony and Disney were fighting over Spider-Man just a few years ago before the events of No Way Home, and then a little bit afterwards, it's been very wishy-washy on if and when we'd get this movie. And for most of us, myself included, we're just going to wait, Like, we're just going to wait. It'll happen. Who knows how long it'll take, but it'll happen. Fast forward, this past Wednesday, we got a trailer, and I'm super excited. To begin, I want to state the huge cultural milestone that this movie, if I'm not mistaken, has already become, like, the biggest trailer for anything ever, with Rockstar's GTA 6 trailer taking that record just last year. And then here we are, not halfway into 2026, and Spider-Man has come and stolen that record with, I want to get the number right, so give me just a sec, 718.6 million views in its first 24 hours, making the biggest trailer launch in history. That is crazy. Previous record for a movie was for Deadpool and Wolverine, which reached 375 million. And then with Rockstar's game trailer, I believe was somewhere between 500 and 600 million. But I'm super excited. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and I have some stuff to comment on. Starting with the suit, because oh dear lord, does Tom Holland's suit in this movie look really fucking good. The red is super vibrant and pretty without being too, like, overwhelming. The blue is dark and able to be used as, like, a desaturated color rather than one that's immediately the brightest thing on the screen. But it's also light enough to still have that hope behind it. It's got a light shine to it, which I'm really into. I'm really big on both the front and back logos of the suit. I think they look tremendous. I'm a really big fan of the mask. I love that he's pulling the mask down. We haven't had Tom do that in a hot minute. He has kind of just had nanotech for the longest while, and I'm very, very, very happy to see an actual mask on a Spider-Man suit. Also, the web shooters that he has in this movie look awesome. I love them. I'm going to see what pictures I can get, because I'm so happy. I'm so happy with the stuff for this movie. One moment. One sec. Look at that. Isn't that dope? I think that's so cool. I'm a big fan of this. And for the people who haven't seen the trailer, go watch it. It's on YouTube. It's like everywhere. So Please, please, please go look at it. I'm excited for this movie. Here's the suit as a whole, which I'm super excited for. It's not like super tight on him, which I like. You get to have the wrinkles. The trailer starts with him sitting on a rooftop watching perhaps like a TikTok or an Instagram story or something of Ned and MJ. But the thing from that I want to point out is whenever he dives, we get a very TASM 2-esque diving situation where we see the wind like blowing the suit around, and it's not super tight on him, which I prefer. It's tight enough to not make him look tiny. He's still big, and dear God, is Tom Holland huge in this in this tray. He is so big. But the suit is tight enough to look form-fitting and make him look big, but it's not tight enough to look awkward or snug, which I very appreciate. And then being able to see the wrinkles on it, because it's a real suit. It's not some nanotech robot thing. It's a bunch of cloth, you know? And that makes me really, really happy. I'm really happy with the colors. I'm really happy with, like, the return to style and just the red and blue. You don't need a lot of accents. I'm happy. Really big on the front logo, which is this black one. I'm a big fan of the way it looks. And then I like the back logo of this even more than the front logo. Look at that. The one on your right is the one from No Way Home. The one on your left is from Brand New Day, and I'm a big fan. I like when the spider logos on the back are long, like the TASM one, or whenever typical symbiote suits. I'm a big fan of the longer back logo. So that makes me super happy. Getting away from discussing the suit, another Peter Parker thing, Tom's hair. Tom's hair is not like super long or anything, but it's longer than it has been in the previous movies, and it's curlier, which I'm a big fan of. I really like when Peter has curly hair. I like when Peter's hair is a little unkempt, maybe not the cleanest thing in the world. No diss on Tom or anything. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or rude to Tom Holland. Just, I like the idea of Peter's hair being a little unkempt, being a little rough around the edges, and that not being necessarily his personality, but in his looks. And we get to see a little bit of that with his hair being a little bit longer, a little bit curlier, a little greasy. And then later in the trailer, he's sat by a washing machine while he's cleaning his suit, and he's got a huge bruise on his thigh, which we don't know what from. Probably some fight or something that's going to be important to the story. But being able to see those little things, like Peter, he can lift a car, he can fight the Hulk, he can deal with Wolverine, he can take out hundreds of people in a row, he can run faster than most people, he can swing on webs, he can stick to walls, blah, 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 blah. Crazy healing factor, but he still gets hurt. He's still a dude. If you shoot Peter Parker in the head, he's gonna die. Shoot Miles Morales in the head, he's gonna die. Spider-Man isn't Superman, but he's not Hawkeye. You know what I mean? He's in the middle. And being able to see bruises and cuts and whatnot on Spider-Man is super important to me. That's why the whole suit being able to get damaged is such a big deal in Spider-Man media. It's why it matters to me that when the final battle of a Spider-Man movie happens, the suit doesn't look perfect. Look at all three Tobey films. The suit gets destroyed. Look at the first Andrew Garfield film, whenever that suit just gets pretty fucked. Look at Miles in Across the Spider-Verse. His suit gets demolished in the fight against Miguel. And I love that. In the games I love the suit getting destroyed and us seeing the glimpse of humanity that the city would get to see in those situations, where we're not necessarily getting like a look at their face or anything, but we're getting to see their skin. We're getting to see that they bleed, they cry, they're superheroes and they're superhuman, but they're still human. And that's a super big part of my love for this character. I don't know if you could tell, but I'm a fan of Spider-Man. Ignore the Swamp Thing being the first book that you... Well, actually, no, I think you guys can't see that super well. You might be seeing the Spider-Man. Whatever. Point is, I love seeing that Spider-Man's a human and seeing that he hurts the same as us and whatnot, and that he bleeds. And that's super, super big for my enjoyment of the character. I'm not somebody who thinks that Peter has to get his ass kicked all the time. I'm not somebody who thinks that Spider-Man has to be suffering. Such as, like, if Jefferson Davis dies in Beyond the Spider-Verse, I'll be upset, because the whole point is that he doesn't have to. It's like not the point of the character. I think that there needs to be suffering builds character moments for most superheroes, but it's not their defining trait. It's not the only thing that they have. It's not the only part of who they are, and they're able to be something beyond that. So I don't think we need just infinite scenes of bad things happening to Peter Parker. However, I do want there to be some gritty, realistic stuff, and it seems like there is. He visits the shop. I'm assuming it's the same one that MJ worked at in the last movie, where he's visiting there and they don't know who he is. And then he goes in and we see him at like a party. Point being, we get to see him in these social situations where he's no longer this super social guy that we saw in the last 3 movies, where even while being bullied by Flash, right, he's still openly talking to people. He's still outgoing. He's still caring. He's still doing whatever it takes to be there for his friends, these people that he loves. And then sometimes even people that he's not necessarily friends with, he's still there for, he still talks with. That's part of the character, is when you're the everyman, you have to care about every person. And we see him, obviously he cares about everybody still. He's fucking Spider-Man. But we see these moments where he's not exactly being social. He's quiet. He's holding himself back. And if I'm not mistaken, this movie takes place 4 years after the events of No Way Home. So Peter has been without friends for 4 years. Whatever jobs he's been doing that for 4 years. And he's been alone. So this version of Peter is going to be a little more subdued, a little less boisterous, and a little less social. And I think that's really interesting because we haven't really had that in a long time. There's an argument to be made that in TASM 2 there's like glimpses of that. And in TASM 1 there's a couple glimpses of it. But for the most part he keeps some of his like fun-loving nature. He doesn't really get rid of it. Or at least it doesn't subside that much. Whereas here, it really feels like Peter's missing out on those super positive aspects of who he is and positive aspects about his relationships. And I'm really interested to see what they do with it. Ned and MJ do not have any idea who Peter is. But there seems to be a board on the background with superheroes on it, specifically a lot of Spider-Man stuff. And I think they remember their adventures with Spider-Man. They remember being saved by Spider-Man. They remember being friendly with Spider-Man. They remember all of the events of those 3 movies, and specifically with Spider-Man. But they don't necessarily remember any of the stuff with Peter. And I think they're trying to figure out who Spider-Man is. And I think they're going to succeed at that. I think they're going to succeed. Specifically, there's a scene at the very end of the trailer where there's a little nod to Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, where MJ refers to Peter as a friendly neighbor. But at the front of that scene, or what we've seen of it so far, Ned looks concerned and nervous. And the only thing I can think of is that him and Peter just had a conversation and he now knows who Peter is. He's now been told of their adventures and their friendship and their camaraderie and their care for each other. And I think that's going to be a thing where Ned's going to figure it out because Peter talks to him, and then MJ's going to figure it out. And it's going to be a very awkward conversation. It's going to be a very hard to swallow pill. And I don't think they're going to be necessarily happy with Peter because he promised to come find them and talk to them. But he didn't, because it wasn't the right thing to do at that moment. Great power, great responsibility, and what have you. And I think it's really interesting to see a reaction to knowing who Spider-Man is that isn't super positive. And in the MCU, it's been like, all the heroes know him, no negativity. And then his friends know him, no negativity. May knows, no negativity. And that's fine for the most part. And then we got to see a little bit of like the Peter Parker Spider-Man negativity in No Way Home. But we haven't gotten to see the personal effects of that. We've seen the worldwide, citywide, big effects of people knowing who Peter is. We haven't, to this point, gotten to see those little moments of, oh, they know who I am now, and they know that I lied to them, how do they cope with that? Or they now know that they know who I am, they know what I do, they are now roped in and bad things will occur to me but also to them. And I have to live with that and they have to live with that. And I don't think we've gotten to see that really. The Amazing Spider-Man 1 touched on it, and then Spider-Man 1 and 2, Sam Raimi's movies, touched on it, but Spider-Man 3, TASM 2, and then the Home trilogy really didn't touch on the importance of his double life, and the importance of his hiding of it, and the importance of when he opens up to people, how important it is that they understand all of the parts of it. And that it's not just fun, it's not just cool, it's not just web swinging and fighting bad guys. There's a lot of scary shit. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see that touched on for the first time in really over a decade and like a big, like, thing. So I'm really excited to see what they do with that. I'm excited to see what Peter's been up to monetarily? Is that the right term? I want to know what Peter's been doing for money over this 4-year period. Because we see that he's in probably the same apartment that he was in the end of the last movie, and we see that he's not exactly working with a whole lot of high tech or anything, which is a good thing. So I'm excited to see if maybe he's been working for J. Jonah Jameson, who we know is... We don't necessarily know that he's in this movie, but we do know he's in this world, he's in this universe. So I'm excited to see if maybe he's working for JJ, maybe something to do with like their version of Oscorp or something else. Maybe he's working as a journalist, which is something that very rarely is like a Spider-Man thing instead of just photography. I'm really interested in seeing where they take it and what they've decided to do with that, because it's a very important part of Spider-Man outside of school, right? Whenever he gets past like the high school years, is he's balancing his social life with being Spider-Man, but he also has to balance his job with it. You know, he loses jobs because he can't be there all the time because he's busy. Like the pizza scene in Spider-Man 2, he loses that job because of Spider-Man. And then you have issues where he doesn't show up on time and da-da-da-da-da. And it's very much the same as the school or the college, but on a bigger scale, because you can't just say, oh, I'm sick all the time. You can't just do the work later. You're fired. And it's really interesting to think what they're going to do with this specific story. I'm also excited to see if Peter is... what it is that he's doing with college, because we see him talking to Bruce Banner, who is his professor and who knows what at this moment. But I'm excited to see what Peter is going to school for, what he expects to get out of it, and how it's going with the whole being Spider-Man thing. Speaking of, Bruce Banner's in this movie specifically as Bruce Banner and not like big Professor Hulk. And we've seen a little bit of the Human Banner stuff in a few projects over the past couple of years. And I'm excited to see, with him being like a at least partially important character to this movie, seeing what the story is with him no longer being Professor Hulk, if there's moments where he does let the Hulk out, or if there's going to be some sort of Grey Hulk thing going on. We don't really know, but we can assume. So that's going to be interesting. I'm also interested because in the comics there's the storyline where Peter does a very similar thing. Nobody gets to know who Peter Parker is, right? And Bruce Banner forgets, but the Hulk doesn't. And I don't know if they're going to pull from that. And in the trailer they touch on Bruce asking, what was your name again? Which feels like a nod, at least in some way, to the Hulk knowing who Peter is thing. And maybe it's Bruce like feeling somewhere in his mind that he does know who Peter is, but obviously he doesn't. So I'm excited to see where that goes. We get introduced to Frank Castle, played by John Bernthal again, which I'm really excited for. I'm excited to see what they do with that relationship, because I think it is a really interesting one, especially after, like, the ultimate stuff with knowing that, like, there's a world where Peter Parker dies to Punisher. Technically, I think there's 2 of those. And seeing that relationship played by Bernthal, who for all intents and purposes has been a really adult version of the character and a very dark, brooding, gritty, bloody version of that character, having him played alongside your friendly neighborhood superhero of Spider-Man, I think is going to be really interesting. From what little we get to see of Punisher in the trailer, we know, at the very least, they have communicated a little bit. We know that he refers to Peter as kid, which I think is endearing. And we know that Peter knows that he is Frank Castle. He doesn't just go, oh, that's the Punisher. He refers to him by name, Frank. So I'm excited to see where that goes. There's a really good cutoff of the joke that they did in the first 2 home movies of cutting off the F word before it could be said, right? No fuck allowed. They do that here too with Spider-Man webbing up Frank's mouth as he's about to say motherfucker, which is really good stuff. Villains-wise, we get to see somebody in a hood. We don't necessarily know who they are yet. There's a lot of things pointing to people thinking that is Sadie Sink's character. So I'm excited to see what that is. Everybody's been saying it's Jean Grey, it's Jean Grey, it's Jean Grey. I don't know if Marvel would throw Jean Grey in as her first appearance in a Spider-Man film. And I'm saying I don't know, right? Like, maybe it is. I couldn't tell you. But I don't know about that. But also, I don't know with, like, the short ability we see from that character. I don't know. So we don't know who she is. I'm assuming that's Sadie's character, though, because of the specific, like, hood and whatnot she was wearing matched a set photo of Sadie. So I'm assuming that is her, but I don't have any proof of that. We also get to see a building being blown up, probably by that same character, but who knows? We don't know. And then we also see a character who doesn't seem to be fully conscious of what they're doing tilt their head back, and then the next person over, who is I would have to watch it again. They might be a member of a SWAT team or something. They're in, like, big, like, riot gear. They also do the head thing, and then somebody up a level does it. And it seems like those individuals are being controlled. That is what I pulled from it. And I think it's Mr. Negative. I don't know if Mr. Negative is going to be Martin Lee, like typical, or if maybe that's Sadie's character. I think that'd be a little weird. I don't know if I'd necessarily be too excited about that, but it feels like there's a Mr. Negative thing going on. And then we finally, after 9 years, get to see Michael Mando's rendition of Scorpion. I really like his design. I kind of wish there was some sort of mask thing going on. Not like fully cover him. I think Mando is a tremendous actor and somebody who you need the face of. If you really want to see Mando's, like, acting chops, watch Better Call Saul. And watch, like, his final scene is one of, if not the best acting performances I've ever seen. So I love Mando. I would love to see him in this role. I cannot wait to see him. I've been waiting and begging for 9 years to see that guy get to do something. If you played Far Cry 3, he is your main antagonist there. He's a tremendous actor, and I am so very excited to see what he can do with this role. They finally, like, did something with it, because they have had him teased since the post-credits of Homecoming. And ever since then, he's just been, is he in the next one? Nope. Is he in the next one? Nope. So, I'm very excited for that. There's been a lot of talks of Lonnie Lincoln, Tombstone. We did not see him in this trailer. That does not mean he's not in it. It also doesn't necessarily push away the idea that he is in something later. He could always be a post-credit scene, or he could be a character that's talked about in this movie, but he's not around until the sequel. Who knows? But I am quite excited for that because Tombstone's never been done in live action, and I really like Tombstone, so I'm very excited to see what they do with that. But for now, that's what we know about the villains. We know that there is a Sadie Sink character. We know that there's somebody with some sort of mind control. We know Punisher's there, and we don't know if he's going to be like an antagonist for Peter or not. Hulk's going to be there, but we don't know if the Hulk is there. It could just be Banner. Maybe there's something there. We know the Foot is in this film. The Foot. The Hand. Why am I thinking about Ninja Turtles? They're basically the same, but the Hand is in this film. And it seems like they're doing some stuff with Man-Spider, which is really interesting. Because Peter wakes up in he faints and then wakes up in this big cocoon of webs. And then we see him shoot an organic web. I do not think that'll be around forever. I don't think that's going to be a thing that becomes regular for this Peter Parker. I don't think we're going to get regular organic webbing from him. I think it's going to be a portion of this movie is about that and him becoming this monster instead of just regular old Peter. I don't think he goes through the big transformation into multiple arms, giant head. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think there's going to be some feral Spider-Man going on. There's also a scene where we see him with black eyes, completely blacked out. And I don't know if that is going to be a Mr. Negative thing, or if that is going to be a Man-Spider thing, but we see that, and it's slightly frightening. So I'm excited to see where that goes. Because as far as I know, that hasn't been done in a big thing. They touch on it in the 90s animated show. They touch on it in Ultimate Spider-Man, the cartoon. But I think that's about it. That hasn't really been touched a whole lot outside of comics. So I'm very excited to see where that goes. I'm excited for most of the things in this movie. So I'm very excited. Once again, go watch the trailer. I'm very excited for the movie. It comes out in July? June? Late June? June 31st? I know I'm watching it as soon, the moment I can. I might work, who knows, but I'm watching that movie when it comes. Let me double check. Spider-Man brand new day. July 31st. Okay. But I am quite excited. Very, 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 very excited. I think the only thing this movie could do to genuinely dissuade me and push me away, I think there's only a couple things, not a whole lot. Over pushing just so much stuff. Just lore. There's just the idea of the movie having way too much in it. Because obviously we're having Punisher, maybe Daredevil, we're having Banner, maybe Hulk, we're having at the very least Scorpion and one more villain. And then the Hand. It's there's a bit going on, but I think that's okay. I think the idea of Peter having to deal with one huge, physical villain in the sense of Scorpion, and then many foot soldiers in the Hand, and then also dealing with a mastermind behind the scenes in whatever Sadie's character is, I think that's fine. I think Punisher being there is fine as long as he is not around for the entire thing. If he's there during every single scene, I think it'll be a little weird. I don't think it needs to be a team-up movie, considering Peter's last movie was a team-up movie. And I think if Daredevil's there, it's fine as long as he isn't there the whole time. If Hulk's around, it's cool as long as he's just, in a fight or something. Maybe Mr. Negative is gonna, be the one to cause a Hulk thing. Who knows? But there's not... That's about it, really, is, overstuffing itself. And then it looks beautiful. I'm so excited. It looks so good. But that's, really it for dissuading me, I think. And then I think Peter and MJ shouldn't get together immediately. I want them together. I don't think they should be together immediately just now. I think that feels a little quick. I know it's been 4 years, but it feels kind of wrong for her to get to, like, remember him and then immediately be cool with the fact that he lied about everything, right? But I don't know. Who knows? Make sure to comment what you think, and if you'll be watching it, if you have seen the trailer, if you have any thoughts. I appreciate your time. If you go to the description, there is a link to the trailer and also a link to my Discord. Thank you so much for your time, for your efforts, your support. I appreciate you guys so much. We're on the road to 1,000K. 1,000K, that'd be a million. Lord, 1,000 subs. So thank you so much. And I will see you guys the next time I turn on my little computer. Bye-bye.